Good evening, everyone, and Ken and I welcome you to another Monday Night Magic with your favorite epigenetic geeks. Tonight being the day before Valentine's Day, and tonight being this month being the month of love, we want to really focus. That's what we want to focus on tonight. We want to focus on self-love. How many of you think you really love yourselves?
Come on, let's see something happening in the chat. It's okay to say not sure. It's okay to say yes. No wrong answers here.
There are no wrong answers. And I honestly will tell you that a couple of years ago, when I was working with a coach, not only did I find out I didn't love myself, I actually found out I hated myself. Deep, deep self-hatred for things that had gone on in my life. So, man, I had to pour myself into forgiveness work and just moving through that. It was such an enlightening and inspiring process. And now, truly, every night before I go to bed, I look myself in the mirror and I say, Lori, you're the most amazing woman in the entire world. And there's just no one else I would rather be than you. And it took me a long time to be able to do that. During COVID, I used to say, there's nobody I'd rather go through COVID with than you.
I love that.
Anyway, I'm Lori Falk, and I'm a health and wellness coach, and Ken Close is your favorite epigeneer. And we do these once a month on the second Monday of every month, which means March 13th is the date for the next one. So put that on your calendars. So, Ken, what do you think about this topic we're going to discuss tonight?
Well, I know that there is a ton of things and directions we can go with self-love. But especially when, if our audience depends on our audience, if it's around women, around the feminine or the masculine, there's lots of directions that we can go with self-love. And I am, from my perspective, I'm always about the body, because it's the only thing that we have to navigate life in, right? And if we don't consider its health, its repair module, its way of being, if we don't consider that, then we go unconscious in the way of disorder or dis-ease. And so this is the one thing that I, in terms of self-love, in terms of awareness of who and how we're showing up in our lives, this topic, ladies, and if there's any gentlemen out there, is super important. And we're going to dive into how exactly the way that we think expresses specific things within the body. I mean, very specific things that are either helpful and healthful, or harmful and creating disorder. So we're going to talk about that a lot. And before we get started, I want you guys just to work on a little offering. I'm going to place it. We're going to come back to it at the end of the call. But I want you to just put this in your mind as we're talking and thinking about this within you. I want you to think about, who are you? Ask the question of yourself, who am I? I mean, as we go through this, the content tonight, at the end of that, and then it's no need to actually answer it here, but within yourself, knowing who you are. And I'm going to challenge you to say, you may have an answer now, but by the end of the call, you may be questioning how you've been showing up as to who you are. So hang on to that little subject.
That's a very, very good point. And this topic for this evening kind of all came about because of some personal situations that were going on for me, and some things that made me really sit back and think about who I am. Who am I, and how am I showing up in the world? So let me take you back to the beginning of my corporate career. So I was in the fashion industry. Not only was I in the fashion industry, I was the assistant buyer in the Saks Fifth Avenue department, which meant I dealt with all the high-end, glamorous, beautiful clothes. And I'd call up the president and the company's wives and say, Mrs. Sunshine, could you turn to page 83 in the October version of Vogue magazine and let us know if you like that outfit. If you do, I will have Anne purchase it for you on her next trip to New York. So, I mean, we're talking cutting edge fashion model, glamour girl. And guess what? I dressed the part. Oh my goodness, I dressed the part, and I had this long, sexy Farrah Fawcett hair, and I was this petite little size 2. And I thought, how much better does it get than this, right? Because I'm authentically playing the role of the assistant buyer in the fashion department. Well, that flash forward a couple of years, and lo and behold, I'm now in the men's sportswear department. Had a fabulous, fabulous boss who taught me a ton of stuff. And he knew I was ready to get promoted to the next level. And so he went to the president of the company and he said, I'd like to recommend Lori for such and such a buying position. And do you know what the president said? You don't mean to tell me that pretty little blonde has any brains in her head, do you? Honest to God, okay? So this was a few decades ago, but that was what corporate America in the United States was like.
Yep.
Now, flash forward to here we are in 2023, and we're all involved in an international company. And, you know, people dress a whole lot differently at business meetings. I'm a proponent of wearing a bra at a business meeting, but I'm kind of old-fashioned. That's all I'm going to say about that. I'm being polite. Ken would tell you I'm being very polite because I'm normally a lot more blunt about it. But nonetheless, can you imagine? I mean, my boss came back and he told me what happened. And he told me what the president said, not because he wanted to make me feel bad, because he wanted me to know so that I could decide what I wanted to do about it. What did I want to do about that? Well, this is, and those of you who worked in corporate America, you know the drill. I literally took all those fashion great clothes and put them in the back of my closet. And I went out and bought these ugly, disgusting, knee-length junior house suits with little Oxford shirts and silk ties. And I cut my hair like this short. I just had to present the image that they needed from me to take me seriously. But can you imagine how deeply that impacted me? Here I am, this young girl who loves fashion, who's in the fashion industry, who thinks she's doing the right thing, and now I got to tone it all down. Well, I have spent the next, I don't know, 3 decades being a poor imitation of a man. Not maybe so much in this company, but in my business dealings, in my ways of interacting with people. And I called Ken one day and I'm like, I don't like this. I don't like this part of me at all. I really don't. And so what are we going to do about that? And he said, well, what do you want to do about that? I said, I want to change. And I wanted to change because I didn't like how I was showing up in the world. I didn't like the way men were interacting with me. I mean, when you're now not in corporate America and you're in your own business and you don't have as much interaction with people, if you're not coming and presenting as your authentic self and being all of you, you're perceived in a way that even you don't want to be perceived.
Yeah.
You know, that conversation that Lori and I had, I'm sure she'll talk a bit more about what, what was coming, but this led into an understanding from the epigenetic standpoint as to how we're showing up in the different arenas, whether you're in the corporate sector, at a business meeting, or at a family function on the holidays, or out with your girlfriends or your guy friends, or at a sports game, how you're showing up in those different arenas, what you say, how you act, how you dress, how you think, and how you speak, all those aspects in those different arenas. If those persons, if those states of beings, if those yous are variables, are different in those different arenas, the environment dictates the state of being, the you. If that's the truth, if that's what's happening, what's going on, let me tell you a little bit neurologically what's happening within you is that your brain is building what's called default neural networks around each one of those states of beings. So who you are, how you're acting, how you're speaking, how you're feeling, how you're projecting at a holiday function with your family versus that same kind of state of being, say, with a romantic partner. If they're not the same, then your brain's going to compartmentalize. This is just normal brain function. It has to have an answer to every environmental influence that's being presented. It has to, because the only way it can survive is if it has it already a state of understanding around those different environmental influences. And so it builds these neural networks within the brain called default neural networks of that you. Now, let me tell you a little secret here. Each one of those yous require energy to support.
Oh.
And when you've made all these default neural networks and these different yous within the brain, and the brain has to support them all, this is what's called fractured states of being. Fractured states of being. So you are devoting energy to various components of you without you even understanding that that's happening, right? This is just a subconscious function just so that you can survive. So these are what's called fractured yous or fractured states, and every one of them are consuming energy. So if you're at your family function and you're staying within a very specific boundary of beliefs, of states of being, of conversation, of what you share, there's other states of you that's still alive, these other neural networks. That's the you that's having fun with your girlfriends or at a ball game or some other sense of being. And it's sitting there going, why am I being left out right now? You know what I mean? And so there's still energy being drawn from that other state, but you're maintaining, you're holding yourself hostage to a certain state of being. So I just want you to understand from a neural perspective, from an epigenetic perspective, what's going on within your body. And if energy is being consumed in various states of fractured beings, do you think that there's an abundant amount of energy for healing or for harmony? You have a, let's just call it a mug of energy every day. Every circadian rhythm, you have a mug of energy, and every aspect of you consumes a sip, right? Takes a little bit of that mug, a little sip, yummy, yummy. There's some energy, right? And it's being dedicated to worrying about your job. It's being dedicated to worrying about, did I say the wrong thing? It's being dedicated to your meditations, or it's being dedicated to digesting your food. It's being dedicated to all these things within you, within that circadian rhythm. Then you go to sleep, you rest, you recharge, you rebuild. Okay. So if all that energy, that mug, is being consumed within what we would call the sympathetic systems, or fight or flight or survival mode, then there's not a lot left over for healing and repair, right? And so various fractured states of beings are also ways of consuming from sips from that mug, right? So if you're going to work and let's just say you're the conventional 9 to 5, right? Lori's not, I'm not, a lot of people here are not. But if you are, then you've got, 8, 9 hours of you being that state. Then let's say you go home to your family, And then there's that switch over. Well, first of all, remember that one that's driving home in the commute that's yelling at the traffic and it's giving, none of you guys I know, but I'm just saying there's somebody probably that does that when they're driving. And there's that state of you, the one that gets behind the wheel that's, Mario Andretti and owns the world and nobody else gets in my way. I know, somebody else, not you. But the point is there's still these fractured neural networks, default neural networks. And how do I know if that's true? Well, let's just go back to driving home. How many of you remember every mile marker, every line in the road, every car you passed, every tree you saw, right? Do you? How many? Put your hand up. How many remember all those components, every stoplight you stopped at, how much you applied the brakes, how much you applied the gas pedal, how fast you turned the steering wheel? How many remember all that? None of you? None of you? Okay, well then let me ask you, who was driving home? Who the heck was driving? It wasn't you. That's that neural network I'm talking about, that default neural network that gets behind the wheel and does the functions for you. So not all those neural networks are bad. That's a good one, because when you're driving, right, and your eyes perceive a challenge, the brake light's in front of you, a car runs out in front of you, a ball, an animal, something like that. You don't sit there and process, apply 12 newtons of pressure to the brake pedal in 3.2 seconds. You don't do any of that. This bam, body kicks in, does the action, and you're safe, right? You like those kind of default neural networks. But remember, it's the same efficiency within your brain that built that neural network that keeps you safe in that car, that's building the fractured neural networks to make you somebody at work, somebody with your family, somebody else when you're with your romantic partner. All right. So go ahead, Lori, let's continue here.
Oh, and here's the thing, you guys. I told Ken what was going on in my personal life, and he told me what he just told you. And I went, holy crap. No, that I knew for sure at that moment I had to fix this, because bad enough it was impacting my love life. I sure didn't want it to affect my health also. So, all right, so you go back 5 years and I'm at a networking event and I see this guy across the room, and a friend of mine said, do you know who that is? And I said, no. And he told me, and I went, huh. And all these business things started going off my brain. Now, I already thought he was hot as hell, but I was not the girl that was going to walk across the room and go, hey, baby, but if I had a business reason to do this, and I did, I compiled like the best business reason possible, walked straight across the room, introduced myself, told him who I was and what I knew and why he was going to take me out to lunch next week. So lunch didn't happen the next week, but it did within a couple of months. So over the course of the next year or so, we took a deep dive down this rabbit hole of this business venture that I was involved in. That wasn't Healy. It had to actually do with redox signaling molecules. So and it ended up being a big business deal. We actually introduced these molecules into the world of dentistry. So that was a big deal, right? A huge deal. But then what? Then I kept kind of thinking he was cute. But no, that's not acceptable in a business situation. And ended up working in the same building with this person, saw this person often and a lot, and even dreamt about him. Oh my God. So it was okay to dream these things. You just couldn't like verbalize them because I had to be Miss Corporate Professional. And so, we no longer work in the same place, and I hadn't seen him in a while, and I helped him get some money, and he was really excited about that. And I just decided he was going to take me out to dinner to celebrate. And I decided, you know what? I got to change. Because it's my fault that nothing else has ever happened here. I'm the one. I put up all the barriers. I never, ever, ever let that feminine Lori out. Ken goes, I don't get it. You seem to be very vulnerable and feminine when you're with me, but he's vulnerable and has a huge heart. It makes it easy, right? So Ken and I had a lot.
Hold on a minute. Hang on a second here, Lori. So you're saying that you were showing up as somebody different when it came to this person that you had certain feelings for, even having dreams about, then you were showing up when you were communicating with me. So in other words, now we're building a couple of fractured networks, right?
Oh,
Falk,
yeah.
everybody
Mhm.
getting this, right? You're getting it. Okay, go ahead.
Right. Well, so maybe Ken taught me how to talk in a more healthy, vulnerable way and have conversations in a professional manner as well. So I thank you for that, my friend. Anyway, I decided I was going to shift things up a bit and I was going to really change. And Ken made me go get a new dress. Can you believe it? Oh my God.
I didn't make you. One of the suggestions was that you go back to the normal you, the sexy you, the you that felt confident and loved herself, right? And
Absolutely.
what does she look like? How does she act? What does she wear? How does she talk?
Yeah. So I did. I went and had cleavage. I wore heels even with sciatica. I put my fur coat on and I walked outside and I said, "Good evening. Let me introduce you to the new, softer, gentler, more feminine Lori for 2023." And the man almost fell over. I mean, it was the start of a very lovely evening. And so my point is, I consciously chose, have I been running Healy programs to have a romantic relationship? Yes. But this, and maybe it's an offshoot of that coaching program that made me really realize I had to change. I had to make the decision. I had to show up differently in the world. And once I understood that there were fractured parts of myself and that wasn't good for my health, it was even easier to do. So
there's a very distinct pattern, and to understand these patterns is that the human being is influenced by its environment, right? Because it is there's a design in order for it to survive within any environment. This is, we've talked about this before, you know, our body recreates a cell structure to the tune of 800,000 cells per second. And 97% of the genetic code that's written for those cells, 97% is adaptive, reading from where? From the environment in order to produce cell structures that mate and match and interface and survive within the environmental influence. So neuroscience and epigenetics actually both concur on this, that it's the environment that signals the gene. Okay, it's the environment that signals the gene. Now, if the environment of the cell is the internal structure of your body, right? When I say environment, I'm not talking about necessarily the room you're in right now, but the interior structure of your body is the exterior environment to the cell. So if the interior environment of your body, right, everything that's inside of us is signaling the gene, then do your thoughts have a influence within the system of your body? Absolutely, because the thought generates energy. So your heart has a magnetic field that it emits, right? Because of its enormous amount of electrical energy. The brain also has a magnetic field because of its enormous amount of electrical energy. So in other words, you've got 100 trillion synaptic connections in the brain firing information, more energy, because it's within these bodies, you measure 0.07 millivolts is what each cell has. Multiply that by the millions and millions of cells you have. That's more energy than every cell phone on the planet. All right, within your body. Now, that energy, we can read anytime you have energy flow from one point to another point, say through an electrical cord, you know, you have a lamp you plug in, turn it on. Every time you have electrical energy flowing, there's a magnetic field that emits off of it. You can't see it, but it's there. So if this body has an enormous amount of electrical energy, that means that there is a field of magnetic energy coming off of it that you can't see, but it's very present. So every time you have a thought, you run energy through synaptic connections in your brain. And when you have neural networks, that's a lot of synaptic connections running energy. And this energy is putting off magnetic signals. So your cell structures, 800,000 cells per second, are reading this magnetic energy. And if your thoughts are, I'm unworthy, I don't love myself, I hate myself, we heard Lori say that, then the cell structure, the 97% that's reading the environment is going to build a cell structure that hates yourself. Okay. So when do we want to stop doing that? I'm saying now. Right? When do we want to stop doing it? So the point here is when Lori and I were talking about that, and she's like, oh my gosh, I don't want my body to be unhealthy. You can't, what I always say, you can't untaste the orange juice. You can't unknow something, right? You can't unexperience something. When you have an aha moment, it rewires everything neurological, everything. So your nervous system, your brain, everything gets rewired in one instant. So you have an aha moment. Anybody ever had an aha moment? Just something clicked all of a sudden, right? Those aha moments are literal, actual nervous system rewiring moments. And it happens in one instant. Now, the body is still mass. The nervous system is still electrical systems, and it can change at the speed of light, but the body is mass. Its tissue, systems, and organs and cells take a little bit longer. So it's a body, a mass in space and time. So it takes time. I mean, how many of you guys have ever maybe changed your diet or something, right? And you see some things that happen over time. So this is important to understand that even though you have an aha moment, the body takes time for it to manifest. Because remember I said that the internal environment of the body is the external environment of the cell. 800,000 cells per second are changing under this new environmental influence. So the moment that you get an aha moment, Lori had an aha moment, like, oh my gosh, my state of thinking, my state of being, my fractured sense of being, this way in one arena, this way in another arena, is harming my body. So now with this new information, she can't plead or claim ignorance anymore. She's like, I gotta do something different, right? And so she changed her neural network in an instant, and her body started to follow suit to the tune of 800,000 cells per second. So a little time went by, and then she winds up going on, out and shopping and going on this, well, we won't call it a date. We'll let you finish the story, but we'll going on this appointment. How about that? So you go ahead.
Oh my goodness. So the evening was quite lovely. I made my points. I picked a Saturday night. I picked the most lovely restaurant in the city and dressed the part. And it's still, remember, I'm the one that decided to change. So this has probably taken this person by surprise, because I was showing up as someone he'd never seen before. And I don't think he quite knew what to do about it. So he didn't. I don't think he didn't. He didn't know what to do about it. And so it was a lovely dinner. It was a lovely celebration. And I had shifted my mindset. I had shifted so many things internally. But I went into it knowing, right? You got to know when you're making this kind of change, this level of change, that you can't be attached to the outcome. I went into this saying, Laura, you're doing this for yourself. And no matter how this all goes, you're practicing. You're practicing how to be the softer, gentler, more feminine Lori. You're practicing how to be on a date. You're remembering to be authentically all of you at all times. And so see where it goes. Worst case scenario, you got a lot of really good practice and a really great meal. So after dinner, we went to have an after dinner drink at a lovely lounge. And we were talking and kidding around and just being playful, because all right, this gets good. You guys are going to love this. And maybe some of you out there want to do this. I certainly didn't. My 31-year-old niece doesn't think she's ever going to get married or find a guy because she's too old. So can you imagine what her mother thinks? Oh my God, her sister's in her 60s and single. What are we going to do with Lori? So my sister on New Year's Day sends me the link to apply to be on a reality TV show produced by the people who produced The Bachelor called Seniors Looking for Love. I told Ken, yeah, I'd go in there and go, well, I know this person is behaving this way because of the epigenetic ancestral coding. I don't think I'm the person they want on this show. So, and besides, there were like 80 questions on this questionnaire. So I decided I'd be playful and I would tell my friend that I was having this evening with about it. And he wanted to see the questions. And so we're looking at the questions and answering some of them and just laughing and having a good time. And then, because I was a vibrational match to this, I was a real strong vibrational match to this, another couple came in and asked if they could sit next to us. And we said, of course, we saved those seats for you. And then they asked us what in the world it was that we were doing on my phone. Strange thing to be doing when you're out on a Saturday night. And we told them, and they were like, no way, absolutely no way. Seniors, who are the seniors, first of all? Well, when we finally convinced them that could actually be us, the guy looks at his wife and goes, pay attention. This is what you can look like. Anyway, he said, but okay, I still don't get it. Why are you doing this? You're such a cute couple. And my friend was like, oh no, we're just really good friends. We're really, really good friends. And, we've known each other for a long time and we've been through a lot. I'd go as far as to say we actually love each other. And the guy goes, dude, seriously, have you checked out the woman sitting next to you? You're on a date. So I attracted somebody, literally earth angels, into this situation because I wasn't getting through. I needed to have a little help from some outside sources. So I share all of this with you, not to take a deep dive into Lori's maybe love life, but to say you can shift on a dime, you can make that decision, you can get so solid with it that even the universe will line up amazing miracles and situations to help.
I'm telling you that. So because Lori changed her internal state, well, just through the mind, through thoughts, and said, you know what, I am worthy of love. I am worthy of a relationship. I am worthy of an answer, right? She's having dreams about this person, right? And still in the unknown. And this is where the body feels unsafe. Sorry to tell you, it's still in that sympathetic nervous system because you're making up content internally and yet doubting it because what you see externally, right? So there's a dissonance between what you're seeing and what you're creating inside. So these senses of ours take in information and we can, if we're in the analytical sense of it, we can place meaning upon it. And most of the time we do, right? So we place a meaning on it that he doesn't call me, or I don't see him socially, or whatever it is, he doesn't like me, it's just business. We place meaning on that. But the moment that there's a higher, greater level of concern, in other words, oh my gosh, what I'm doing is harming my body, then you tend to be willing to take a risk, right? There's a better, people change in one of two reasons, either the heightened state of alert or catastrophic event, or an enlightened understanding or education, right? Some aha moment. We change for those two reasons usually. And so when Lori's like, I don't want this to affect me. I'm gonna tune up my game, right? I'm gonna step it up a bit. However, think about what she started out saying. When it comes to the generational beliefs, humans in their 60s, 70s have a very distinct belief around relationships, that generational information, that the man pursues the woman, right? There's this courtship, there's this system that should always be in place. And I'm going to tell you, the good old days are gone. Right? We're not going back to the old systems. We've evolved beyond that. We've outgrown the old cause and effect, Newtonian principle. We're in the quantum law. We are now attracting events to us. So ladies and gentlemen, doesn't matter, but the old stigma about the man pursuing the woman and you're not getting pursued, what are you drawing to you? We're in quantum law now. We're in quantum law. So there's permission. There's permission to pursue, right? To go for what you want, to get out there and say what's true to your heart. Remember what I said about these fractured states of being. If we're out there and we're being timid, we're being unworthy, we're being unloved, we're being, small, and we're seeing beautiful humans out there that we would love to interact with, and we're not. That's a fractured state of being. You're suppressing things, and that 800,000 cells per second are saying, okay, here's our unworthiness. We'll go ahead and build systems and structures within the body to promote the unworthiness. And that continues. So the moment you decide to break that cycle, the moment you do that with great understanding, great dedication, and great desire, the universe pivots on its axis. I kid you not. The quantum law says, it's law that says that your energy will attract like energy, and the universe will shift on its axis and bring you allies, will bring you moments of clarity, bring you coincidences, serendipities, just like that couple that Lori's telling you about. That the guy says, wait a minute, dude, wake up, look at you, look at her. She's freaking rocking hot. And so you think she dressed that way for a business meeting? Come on, dude, and that gives, again, this is not Lori speaking it, because she's already tried to kind of say that kind of stuff in a hinting kind of way. Again, that whole generation saying, I don't know how bold I can be. Well, the honest truth is, here's one life that's yours, and that's who's living it, just you. So if you're not bold, you're not going to wind up getting the things you're looking for. Right? You've got to be bold. You feel beautiful, be bold about it. Talk about it. And there's a balance between the ego driving and your heart driving. Drive that boldness from the heart. Don't get the heart wrong. The heart is not timid. The heart is a warrior. Believe me, the heart is a warrior, fierce warrior that will go for what you want and push you every moment. You know it. There's been those times when the heart says, do this, and you're like, I'm afraid. And the heart's like, I don't care. And you're saying, but I can't. And the heart's like, yes, you can. And there's this little thing going on back and forth. And then the one who wins, right? How many times have you gone back up to the head and the head takes over, right? Stay in your heart. I want you to understand that there is an ancient wisdom that's just sitting there waiting for you to pay attention to it. And that's your soul. Your soul is millions of years old. I mean, it is at least hundreds of years old. It is so wise. It has been around many times. And this soul of yours, there's not one that's better than the other. There's not one that's bigger than the other. We have lots of different human bodies in which our awareness habitates. However, the soul is just as fierce and strong in every single one of you. The problem is the soul blinded? Can the soul see and guide? And if it's not guiding you, it's because it has no window to peer through. And the window of the soul is the heart. It's the heart. So we're in this month of love. We're right before Valentine's Day. And what is the symbol that you mostly see for Valentine's Day, right? It's this heart. And so the wider, the bigger, the broader, the more open the heart is, the broader the gaze that the soul can peer into your life and guide you. This is the purpose-driven connection to the quantum field. Now we're connecting the quantum field of possibility, the 97% of our genetic code that's adaptive, reading its environment We're connecting all of this physical sense to the quantum field, to an ancient wisdom of the soul. Think about the power you've got by just building that coherent circle, right? And it's done right here, right from the heart.
Absolutely. Right from the heart. That's why I actually rebranded myself about 5 or 6 years ago and named my business Head to Heart Healing. Because it's the longest journey you'll ever take, getting out of your head and into your hearts. And yet the heart is made up 50% of brain cells. So where are the wisest decisions made? With thought alone or with thought and feelings? It's kind of that easy. It really is. And so I ask you ladies to really, and gentlemen, but we have a lot of women on here and a lot of women who are probably 50 and up. And many of us were raised in an era of shoulds. You should get married. You should have 2.3 kids. Never figured the 0.3 out. But anyway, you should. And then most of us also were coming into our own during the whole feminine movement. And so now here we are. I am a woman, hear me roar. Let's go out into corporate America. Let's make a name for ourselves. Oh my God. And be fractured when we're doing that. And then run home after we've, honked at people and done whatever, and put on that whole different cap and make dinner and take care of the kids and do homework. And oh my God, it's Christmas. Do all the decorating, do all the entertaining, do all the everything. We have exhausted ourselves. We've literally exhausted ourselves. So here we are. It's February. It's the month of love. Who are you? More importantly, who do you want to be? Nobody asked you that when you were younger. They told you who you should be. They set all these parameters and all these rules around you. And even though we're out here and we're running around and we're saying we're not happy, we don't know how to fix it. It's like this hamster wheel, because all those old subconscious programs and limiting beliefs are running the show. 90 to 98% of the time, we're reacting based upon those subconscious programs. So I'm saying, stop, get conscious, and really ask yourself, who am I? And what do I want? And when you have the answer, move forward.
So let's circle this back to the epigenetic phenomenon and the energetic expression of building this body. We have a tool, right? We have a tool. We have a device that bridges. And here people ask me about Healy all the time, right? And they say, hey, what's your one sentence description of Healy? And I spoke to you earlier about the quantum field. I spoke to you earlier about the soul and the open heart, its window for peering into your life. These are bridges. This is a full circle system. And Healy, my one sentence description of Healy is that it's a bridge between the quantum field of information and the biological and physical fields of matter. It bridges the content from the information field with this tangible three-dimensional body in space and time. And then based on that bridge and the body's needs, builds models, builds frequency systems to then align these systems, tissues, organs, and cells with their optimal version. So just like I said earlier, that a thought in the mind generates energy, which is the internal state of the body, but the external state of the cell. When we put energy into the body via the Healy's quantum sensor, or I should say frequency generator, when we put energy into the body, and it doesn't matter if it's through the coil with its magnetic influence, through the wrist electrodes, through its microcurrent influence, or through the vibrational mode of its quantum influence, it doesn't matter. This is energy sent with a clear intention to the target, and the target is you. It's the client. And it sends this energy to the internal of the body, being what? The external of the cell. And this genetic code, 97% of that code is being written under this new energetic frequency. And Healy interfaces with this body to find resonance with the body, and then give you very specific frequencies to align that genetic code so that 800,000 cells per second are optimized. They're optimized, right? Do the math. 800,000 cells per second. How many seconds in a day?
Oh,
I'm not saying run the Healy on your body all day, but even if you do it, some of the programs are 72 minutes long, right? Some of them are only 20 minutes long. Still, what's 20 minutes times 800,000 cells? Do the math. You're now changing epigenetically, meaning outside the cell, the influence outside the cell. You're now changing the genetic code for those cell structures to be a new version of you, an optimized version of you. Now, how do you enhance that whole process? With your thoughts, with your beliefs, with your intentions. I'm not saying that Healy is the only form of action that you need to take. You need to mind your hydration. You need to mind your nutrition. You need to mind your mind. You need to be aware of your thoughts, right? And then, like Lori said, honestly, ask yourself, do you love yourself? These are some valuable pieces of information. Are you truly revealing all of you when you show up? Are you leaving part of you at home when you go to work? Are you leaving part of you at work when you go home? I mean, what's the best version of you? It's every piece. Fractured networks need to be combined into one version of you. And are you showing up as your authentic, amazing self, right? Are you hiding under social norms that you grew up with? I challenged you. I offered this challenge to ask yourself, who are you? And another component to that is that we're now in this space and time. The good old days are not coming back. I mean, the past is the past. The moment that we have to create from is this present one. We can't create from the past. It's past. It's gone. We have this present moment to create from. Okay. So the body is always an expression of the past, right? How do I know that? Well, because we didn't just grow this hair just now, right? I mean, okay, I'm not growing the hair that I used to, but it doesn't matter. We're not just growing this body just now. It's been an expression that's been happening for decades. And so it happened yesterday all the way up until just a moment ago, but it's this present moment. Now there's a new 800,000 cells in this moment that I get to create. Oh, and now this moment, and now this one, and so on and so on. My point is, you only have the present moment to create from, not yesterday. And you can't concern yourself about tomorrow. It's not here yet. So let's build something in this present moment, right, that answers all those things. Are you showing up as your authentic self? Are you bringing all of you to the table? Do you honestly love yourself? And are we conforming to social norms? So these are the things that I highly recommend that you ask yourself these questions. What am I thinking about right now? How many times have you got on this thought hamster wheel, and all of a sudden you've been thinking the same thought over and over again for how long? 60 to 70,000 thoughts a day. This is neuroscience's estimation, best estimation of how many thoughts you have per day. 60 to 70,000 thoughts per day. 90% of those are redundant. Same ones as yesterday, right? So 800,000 cells per second created under the redundant 60 to 70,000 thoughts. How do you change? How do you change if that's the scenario? First step is your awareness. Asking these questions that we've asked you tonight. Do you love yourself? Right? Are you conforming to social norms? Are you showing up? How are you showing up? Who are you? Asking these questions every moment, and then coming up with answers that you want to be, not what you don't want to be. Come up with the answer that you do want, right? Lori told you a story. I love the story. I was blessed to be actually part of that story and to be influencing some of the outcome, right? Just by theory, just by principle, right? And then Lori put it into play. And this happens in an instant. It doesn't take time for things to change. It happens now. So I offer those questions. Keep in mind the challenge that I mentioned. It is to ask, who am I? Who am I? Open your heart. Open your heart. Allow yourself to be vulnerable. This is the scary part. This is the really scary part, especially I know as the feminine energy, is to ask the question, who am I? And truly be vulnerable to that question. And I'm going to give you a little energetic feeling right now. I want you guys to just sit back for a moment and relax for a second. And I want you to just feel for a second that you're safe, right where you are in your chair, in your space, that you're safe, and that there's an energy surrounding you of unconditional love, that there is a thought within your mind that I do love myself, and that you're looked after, that you're not preyed upon, that there's no reason to fear, and that there are humans out there, and I'm one of them, that will hold an intense energy of protection over the feminine. So just hold that inside and know that you're safe to feel and to be and to think and to express right there where you are. Feel that. Allow that to be who you are right now. Breathe it in. Allow every breath to come in that's full of energy and safety and security. Every exhale to go out, to be the victim of who you were, releasing it. Feel that energy going in, safe, secure, and loved. Feel that release going out of fear, disharmony, and worry. Feel it. So take that into the next moment. Now you just we did this, that only took about 37 seconds. But take 37 seconds times 800,000 cells. And that's a whole lot of cells that are going to help be your allies to answer that question of who am I?
Beautiful. Thank you for that, my friend. Just beautiful. And for those of you who are out there who are single, I know so many women who are eminently successful in their professional lives who are walking around alone. And I'm going to say to you, do the self-analysis like I did and ask yourself how you're showing up. Because there was no way I was going to attract love from that fractured part of me that was denying my own femininity. That wasn't going to happen. And now, who knows? The sky's the limit. I don't like online dating, I got to tell you. But a friend of mine last night just said, I have somebody I think I should introduce you to, out of thin air. I didn't even ask. Because I'm showing up differently. And the universe is reading my new energy signature. And if I can change like this, so can you. And this has all happened in less than a month. So it doesn't take that long. It starts with a decision, because there's too many lonely hearts out there, guys. Too many lonely hearts. And we don't want to attract what lonely hearts can attract from a physiological perspective. So love yourself. Give yourself permission to be your authentic self. Give yourself permission to be your authentic self. And write an intention in your coaching module that's very simple. As I reveal my authentic self, I am loved and admired by all. As I reveal my authentic self, I am loved and admired by all. And then let that darn coaching module find in milliliters of seconds what is in your way of being your authentic self. And then I invite you to join me on Wednesday evening for a short, quick Zoom where you get to ask as many questions as you want about my Biohacking for Success program, so that you know what it is and you can decide if it's for you. And if it is, I would love to have you join us, because the people who have been taking this program have had tremendous success. And that's where we really take some deep dives into these types of things.
So those of you that that joined us tonight to understand a little bit more about the Healy and how it interfaces, I want you, the reason that we structure this the way we structure this is because even the best of organic, non-GMO, self-grown diets will fail if the mind is not on board with the outcome. And even a Healy has a struggle overcoming your mind, because your systems, your ego, your beliefs, perceptions, and personality have a much greater influence over anything that you do. So we need to first show you an understanding of what you're creating, cell by cell, second by second, right? Thought by thought. And then give you an understanding, like I did, how Healy energetically interfaces at that biological level. So then I hear people tell me all the time, I had this huge shift, just by starting Healy. And I ask them, do you believe in its effectiveness? Oh, I do. I do. I have others who say, you know what? The effectiveness is mediocre. And I said, do you believe it's effectiveness? Well, I don't know. So think about this. It's the mind, the thoughts, the belief systems. You won't do anything that you don't believe in, right? It's like, that's the hard part, because it's our beliefs that build the parameters of our outer limits. And it's beyond those limits that we wind up having the biggest changes, the biggest shifts. It's not what you do sometimes, it's what you do most of the time that has a biological effect on the body. And if we do most of the time the same redundant things, we get the same redundant results. So by pushing the boundaries, this is why we speak in the way of epigenetics. We're pushing the boundary of your understanding so that you can now take hold of what's happening inside of you. You can no longer claim ignorance. Sorry, I'm just saying, write this down. I can no longer claim ignorance. I now know biologically, neurologically, and epigenetically what my thoughts and my behaviors, my personality and beliefs are doing. I can't say I don't know, because you do know. And I encourage you to take that knowledge and convert it into the wisdom by having the experience of change. Okay. I love you guys. Thank you all for being here.
You do. And Ken, I love your vow. Could you verbalize that for all the people here?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Because this is what I do on a regular basis. I vow to hold safety and security and love over the divine feminine every day. I do.
Does it get any better than that, ladies? We've got amazing support right here, right now.
Now, listen, I'm not the only one. I have an amazing community of Dr. Joe students I'm part of, and there are more and more men attending these events than ever before. And years ago, there was a group of us men that were at the Cancun event, and we sat down together and said, hey, we need to up our game. We need to start to build an umbrella, a threshold of safety. Nobody needs to know. Nobody needs to know, because that energy is a consciousness shift that we simply place upon this consciousness of humanity. And it will trickle down to some degree on everybody, just as the flapping of a butterfly's wing in one region of the planet influences weather and airflow in another region of the planet. One thought by one human has an effect on an entire species. And so we decided to do this. And it was just 3 of us at that time. There's more and more men getting on board with this all the time. And I post things every now and then on my Facebook page about, hey guys, come on, reminders, right? And so every day, trust me, if you know nobody out there that's doing this, you'll know one human on this planet that is. And every day I do that. So there you go.
We're so blessed. Hey, I got to ask you guys a question. Ken and I were thinking of what else could we do? And we're thinking about maybe actually having a retreat. So if any of you are interested and think that would be a cool thing, let us know and we'll co-create it for you.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Oh my God, right? Take a deep, deep dive, several days of just deep immersion into this with all these like-minded souls and healthy organic foods and preferably warmth and sunshine. So.
Yes, we need to change the environment, right? So we can do this through this internal state, and we can also do this through the external state. So look at your environment, find out where it's supporting you. Look at your environment, find out where it's not supporting you. Don't focus on where it's not supporting you. Reorganize your own self and watch the points of that's not supporting you. Watch them start to shift and change and fall away. Allow those things to fall away. And sometimes those are relationships. All right. And that's okay. Come from the heart. It won't steer you wrong, but it will challenge you. I promise.
Indeed it will. Indeed it will. So we want to wish all of you a wonderful, happy Valentine's Day and invite you to join us again a month from now on the 13th of March for another Monday Night Magic.
Awesome, you guys. Thank you all for being here. Big love. Thank you, Lori. Love you.
Oh, thank you, Ken. You're my hero.
Laurie, this is Molly. I really enjoyed it.
Thanks, ladies.
Thank you. Thanks so much.
Laurie and Ken,
Thanks, Paula.
love ya.
Love you
you
too,
too.
sweetie.
Bye, everybody. Have a great evening. The rest of the day. Big shot in the arm for the week. Let's go get them.
Yay. Yes, yes, yes.